Hello and welcome to Fix More, Waste Less, where I try to fix broken electronics and keep them out of the landfill. Today I have another PlayStation 2, this one an original, and not just an original fat model, no, this is an original, a 3001 model, which was the first model actually released in the United States, which that's pretty cool. Now this particular console is having some trouble reading discs, so let's see if we can fix that. First we have to get it apart. Simple process these days. Remove the screws. And as I start taking it apart, we can see just how, I guess, over-engineered the original PS2 was. I've never seen the top and bottom shells have this thick metal inlay on the insides. Even the fan housing here has this premium looking strip of metal. Now while it's true, the plethora of extra metal all around makes this console much heavier than the iterations that came after it. It really does lend itself to having a more premium feel to the console. It's not just cheap plastic everywhere. Another odd thing about this console design is that the power supply here, unlike all other PS2s I've seen, the power supply is facing upwards. Usually it's the green printed circuit board that's facing up with the through components facing down. So I'm not sure what the point of that switcheroo was, but the only other noticeable difference I think is the ribbon cable. In fact, this one isn't even a ribbon cable. The power and eject buttons are connected with actual wires. It really is fascinating to see the refinements that went into the iterations of the PS2s, and it's a reminder at how companies throughout a console or device's life cycle learn to optimize and cost cut to improve the experience. Well, hopefully improve the experience. As we all know, sometimes they cost cut too much, removing features or cutting corners on parts that ultimately make the experience worse. Now that we have the PS2 apart, we can take a look at how we might fix an issue with reading discs. There are a few ways you might be able to revive a PS2 that's not reading discs. Not all are going to work for your issue, and as we'll see, sometimes none of them are going to work. First, you can try cleaning the lens with some isopropyl alcohol. That's a standard first thing you should always try. If the lens has gotten dirt built up on it over the years, this might clear things up and help it read your discs. If that doesn't work, you can try adjusting these little gears here. They angle the laser, but in my experience, this is more of a temporary fix for a laser that's dying, if it's a fix at all. So I wouldn't put too much hope into that. For this PS2, I tried a lot of things. I cleaned the rails to help make sure everything was moving smoothly. I took out the ribbon cable to make sure it was making a good connection, and unfortunately this glued on white tab came off, so I had to deal with that. In the end, no amount of finagling with the device would get it to read a disc. It wouldn't read CDs or DVDs, and sometimes when the laser is failing, it will fail to read a certain format and it will read a different one, so you should try that if it can read a CD or a DVD or if it's completely failed. So I went ahead and bought a new laser for it, which is probably going to be the best option for most PS2 disc readers. You have to remember that these lasers are 2 decades old at this point. They're just waiting to fail. Now I bought this laser on AliExpress, but you could also buy one on eBay or Amazon. I'll leave an affiliate link down below in case you go that route and want to support the channel. The thing you need to know about replacing PS2 lasers is that not every console uses the same type of laser. Now while they might look very similar in most cases, there are I think 3 different types of lasers, the 400B, 400C, and 400K versions. The early versions use 400B, which are the weakest lasers and typically fail more often than others. I believe the 400Cs are considered the most common and probably most durable. Now it's possible to replace the laser in your system with a different model, but in order to get the console to recognize the new laser and new model and be able to read the discs, you need to go in and update some drivers in the system. That's a bit outside the scope of this video, but perhaps I'll make a video about doing that in the future. For this console, I just tried to replace the laser with the same model, so a 400B with a 400B. Before installing the new laser, you do have to remove this solder blob here that covers these terminals. It's just there to protect the laser from static discharge during transit, but if you fail to remove it, it's not going to work properly. You can use a soldering iron and a wick to, break that connection. Removing the old laser is a simple process. Remove the one screw at the back, lift up the rod and slide the laser assembly off. Disconnect the ribbon cable by pulling down on these plastic tabs, being very careful, and then you can remove the cable. You have to transplant this plastic guide from the old laser to the new one, and you reinstall the new laser by just doing the reverse. Insert the ribbon cable, close the tab, slide the rod through the guides, and replace the screw, and that's it. It's that simple. If your new laser doesn't come with this guide screw here, you might have to take that off the old laser and put it on, but also not that hard. Unfortunately, replacing the laser didn't fix my issue. Even with the new laser, it still refused to read discs, so I'm going to call this repair right here. I probably spent way too much time trying to figure out why it's not reading discs to make it worth it. I'm not going to get rid of the console just yet, or call it a complete no fix. If only just because of how unique it is to have a launch model PS2, it deserves some extra attention when I can. And the console itself is in good condition, even if it doesn't want to read discs. So I think it does deserve a little bit more attention when I get a chance, just to see if I can get it fully working again. I might try using a different laser model, and honestly, without trying the quote-unquote new laser in another PS2 that I know works, I can't say for sure that this new laser is actually good. That's one of the issues with buying these parts off AliExpress. You never know what the quality is. The quality is not always up to the best standards, and you could very well purchase a dead laser without knowing it. So even though we weren't able to get this console working, I hope you learned something useful from it and maybe got some ideas on how you can try to fix your PS2 if it's having troubles reading games. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below and consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And if you have any tips on ways to bring this PS2 back to its original working ways, please let me know down in the comments below, as I'm always trying to learn more and help others learn as well. Thank you.